I'm going to call this conference committee to order and note that we have a quorum present. The first item on our agenda this morning is discussion and adoption of the A24-0340 delete all amendment. We'll then discuss amendments to the delete all. The amendment is posted publicly on the website and also available in members' packets. Senator Port.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to move the A24-0340, so it's in front of us.
Senator Port moves the A24-0340 before the conference committee. Senator Port.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the A33 amendment to the delete all. This makes a conforming change to the language around cannabis taxation on tribally regulated lands.
Discussion to the motion. Seeing no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. Senator Port.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the A24-0345 amendment to the delete all. This would make the alternative veteran application for the medical program optional rather than a mandatory requirement for veterans.
Senator Port moves the A24-0345 amendment. Discussion to the motion. Seeing no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. Senator Port.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the A24-0344 amendment. This contains several technical tweaks that the OCM has requested to more easily operationalize. And Mr. Chair, I have an oral motion to be incorporated in that amendment.
All right, Senator Port has an oral amendment. Can you state the oral amendment?
On page 28, line 1.4, delete sections 33, 2, and replace with section.
Mr. Johnson, would you be able to restate the oral amendment for the committee?
Mr. Chair, members, Ben Johnson with House Research. So this is an oral amendment to the A24-0344. The oral amendment would be page 1, line 4 of the A24-0344. Delete sections 33-2 and insert section. That's the end of the oral amendment. It will leave 35. That line will then say page 28, delete section 35.
Discussion to the oral amendment. Seeing no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion prevails and the oral amendment is adopted. Returning to the underlying amendment as amended. Discussion. Representative West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could we get a little more specificity on the technical changes that were required here?
Senator Port.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment makes clarifying changes to the DE to ensure that the edited sections align with the proposals included throughout the bill. Section 3 is repetitive because the same change is already made in a different section. Section now 35 is part of a Senate proposal, was part of a Senate proposal that has since been dropped. Page 69 and 87 are correcting drafting for clarity. The change on page 72 rearranged the paragraphs and add language to provide clarity on definitions and verification. On page 137, the amendment is clarifying intent to match a previous section about the authority of the office. And on pages 137 and 138, the amendment corrects effective dates.
Seeing no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. Representative West, I believe you have the A34 amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry, you are good at running one speedy committee.
We try to be efficient.
Efficient or sneaky, who knows?
No, just efficient.
All right, so this amendment deletes the exemption to the municipal cannabis dispensaries, not counting towards the local limit. The reason for this amendment is many communities, many legislators, both senators and representatives, were concerned about the local control aspect of the cannabis bill. And one of the ways their concerns were assuaged was, hey, the municipal can have a cannabis dispensary, and if it's a tiny community, well, then the city has control over the cannabis market in their area, which, because it's a cash-based business, typically attracts more crime than the average business. Many communities thought that was very important. Particularly, I know Senator Hoschild was very concerned with the local control aspects of the bill. So by this exemption that is now in the bill makes it so, well, these smaller communities actually don't have local control if they can't use their municipal cannabis license to keep a track of the market in their communities. So for districts like Senator Hochschild's and others around the state who are concerned on the local control issue, I think it would be very important for our committee here to delete this from the bill so we can make sure that their wishes are respected and their community's wishes are also respected. And I'd request a roll call on this amendment, please.
Representative West requests a roll call. There will be a roll call. Senator Port.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I encourage a no vote on this amendment. We've worked closely with municipalities throughout this process, and this year, one of the things we did was add the ability for them to be guaranteed a license. What we are not allowing them to do is to then make themselves a monopoly in their area. This would allow them to have a monopoly in the cannabis industry. It's bad for consumers, it's bad for the market, and I encourage a no vote.
I would encourage members to vote no as well. Any further discussion to the West motion? Representative West.
Well, I would argue saying it's a monopoly, it's like, oh, a monopoly in a city of less than 12,500 people. Well, that's not really a monopoly. That's just having a single business in a community where they can go to the next community over and still access it. So the idea that it's a monopoly is kind of silly. And I think we need to respect our local communities. I know I refuse to use local control as a strong aspect. I use that as an aspect of other people making that argument because I know how that issue gets so hypocritical almost immediately. But I believe many members who represent these smaller communities will be surprised that their cities no longer have the ability to control the market in their area outside of having a business, but then there might be many others to generate crime in their communities. So members, I imagine I will be lonesome on this, but I would encourage a noble senator or two to join me.
Senator Frentz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, members. Thank you, Representative West. I represent cities of 700, 800, 1,100, 1,200, and I've heard no such thing from those cities, nor a request to support this amendment. I'd encourage members to vote no on the amendment, but I do appreciate the sentiment that we're looking out for big and small cities.
Mr. Durfee will take the roll. The chair votes no.
Chair Stephenson, no. Senator Port?
No.
Senator Port, no. Senator Frentz?
No.
Senator Frentz, no. Senator McQuaid? No. Senator McQuaid, no. Senator Zhang? No. Senator Zhang, no. Senator Pha? No. Senator Pha, no. Representative Frazier?
No.
Representative Frazier, no. Representative Hansen?
No.
Representative Hansen, no. Representative West?
Yes.
Representative West, yes. Representative Kozlowski?
No.
Representative Kozlowski, no.
There being 0 ayes and 5 nays on behalf of the Senate and 4 nays and 1 aye on behalf of the House, the motion does not prevail. The amendment is not adopted. Representative West, I believe you have the A35 amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The A35 amendment is language that came from the Senate that I thought was pretty good language. It inserts the following into the social equity qualifications. So, is a woman who operates a woman-owned business as defined in section numbers and letters. So, this is important because, well, if we're trying to address with the social equity portions every past grievance that has ever happened in our country, women have certainly had it less well off historically than men in America and around the world. It's only reasonable that they are also extended the courtesy that we have done for other communities in this social equity portion of the bill. It was already adopted in the Senate, so the Senate had a positive position on it. It seems strange that we would exclude women from this category, and because the Senate supported it, I think the House should also support it, and seeing that it somehow lost its way, we should reinsert it into the bill so we can watch out for all communities who have been marginalized in the past of our country.
Representative West moves the A35 amendment. Members, I encourage a no vote on the A35 amendment. The bill is not designed to address every grievance, or I don't remember exactly what Representative West said there, but that's not the point. The point of of social equity is to ensure that the people who were most harmed by the prohibition of cannabis have an opportunity to participate in the new legal marketplace. This amendment would undermine and dilute that, and so I would encourage members to vote no. Senator Port.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the reasons that the chair stated, I also encourage a no vote.
Further discussion. Representative West.
And if you look at the social equity portion of the bill, not every single person in those groups would have been a particular victim of cannabis regulation. Some of them certainly. I think the only one that is truly obvious is somebody who was discharged for the military for a cannabis-related offense, or somebody who was convicted of a cannabis-related offense. Those people were certainly harmed. I don't think anybody would argue with that. They weren't harmed. I mean, they were harmed. The other categories are just big swaths of people it's clearly designed, I mean, it's very cleverly designed, it appears to me, to try and encompass certain groups of people or something like that, but you don't want to be explicit. And one problem is a significant amount of people covered in the current social equity definition have not been harmed by cannabis prohibition. They just happen to fall into these strange categories that are listed here. So I would argue, well, if we're being that broad, because you're wrapping up a whole lot of people who haven't been harmed by cannabis prohibition, but some people in those communities have been harmed, well, why not extend that to other groups that we know have been harmed historically? So I would urge members to support this because it's makes it a little more fair, because the social equity portion of this bill is fundamentally unfair, particularly because many of the people wrapped up in it are not harmed by cannabis prohibition, but are getting benefits in this bill as if they were harmed, addressing the concerns you have. And I would request a roll call on this amendment as well.
Representative West requests a roll call. There will be a roll call, and Mr. Durfee will take the roll. Chair votes no. Oh, I'm sorry. Senator McQuaid, did you wish to be recognized?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Senator McQuaid, I
Thank you.
apologize.
It's totally fine, Mr. Chair. I'm also going to encourage a no vote, and I think we should be really explicit about how we arrived at this moment 100 years after cannabis prohibition and after we've had this failed war on drugs. The Nixon White House advisor to the president said, we had two enemies, the Nixon White House did, the left and black people. Now, we couldn't make it illegal to be black, but we could criminalize marijuana, disrupt their communities, break up their homes, break up their meetings, raid their homes, arrest their leaders, and vilify them night after night after night on the news. And that's exactly what they did. And so let's not be cute about how we arrived here and who these social equity licenses are meant to help. It's exactly who the Nixon White House and pretty much every White House after that targeted specifically for overcriminalization and incarceration. So I'm going to encourage a no vote so that we can do exactly what this bill was meant to do, and I thank the chairs for their work.
Further discussion. Representative West.
To that, I would say in this bill, it doesn't say the African-American community or anything like that. I agree, absolutely horrible, the policies that were pursued by that administration and some subsequent administrations. But I would say that argument is over here because that is not in the social equity portion. So that does not address the real concerns, and I know many of the people have real concerns about unfair treatment under the social equity portion. I'd love to delete it entirely with the exception of the people who are directly harmed, which are the ones who have faced convictions. But, you know, I at least try and work within the realm of possibility here. Because I know that the desire here is not to be fair, it's to be equitable. So I would encourage members to support this so we can put more people, give more people preferential treatment, which makes it slightly more fair. And you cannot argue that women have not had it tough as well. Like many of these large sections in the social equity portion. So members, I would urge your support of this because we should, I mean, the Senate already supported it, so we should have a couple senators support it, I would think. So I'd urge members' support of this provision. Thank you.
Mr. Durfee will take the roll. The chair votes no.
Chair Stephenson, no. Senator Port?
No.
Port, no. Senator Frentz?
No.
Frentz, no. Senator McQuaid?
No.
McQuaid, no. Senator Zhang? Zhang, no. Senator Pa? No. Pa, no. Representative Frazier?
No.
Frazier, no. Representative Hansen?
No.
Hansen, no. Representative Kozlowski?
No.
Kozlowski, no. Representative West?
Yes.
West, aye.
There being 0 ayes and 5 nays on behalf of the Senate, and 1 aye and 4 nays on behalf of the House, the motion does not prevail. The amendment is not adopted. Representative West, you have the A36 amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment is eminently reasonable. I have yet to hear a good argument, which I invite to hear a good argument of why this isn't something that's positive. So in the bill, there's a restriction on the amount, it's a restriction on social equity applicants of the amount of business they can, equity they can give to an investor. Now, one thing that has come up repeatedly throughout this process is the difficulty social equity applicants may have trying to acquire capital. And that is a very real concern. And in order to start one of these businesses, it takes, what, $1 million to start a grow operation? It takes significant money for many of these things. So when you're looking, especially if you look at the portion of this bill that allows early cultivators, social equity applicants to start early cultivation, well, I'm all for early cultivation, and social equity applicants are certainly welcome to be included. But if the concern is they don't have, that many members of this committee have shared, is a difficulty in acquiring money to start these businesses, well, why are we restricting how much of the business they can part with to get that money to start the business? This only hurts, this limitation only hurts social equity applicants. It only hurts social equity applicants. It does nothing to protect them, because many people think that there will be some clandestine evil businessmen who want to put up a token social equity applicant and then somehow steal the business from them through some sort of predatory contract. This limitation does nothing to stop those kind of predatory contracts. It doesn't. All it does is put a limitation on the social equity applicants on what they can sell of their business to acquire the capital to start the very business they would like to get into. Also, since now you can get, also in this bill, now you can get a license without having property, this capital conversation is even more important. Because you can't start an early cultivation project without property. It cannot be done. So, if you have to raise $1 million, you're gonna need to have some people with that money. Now, thankfully, this federal government is gonna move it to Schedule 3, which does open some banking opportunities, which could be helpful. But historically, and I've heard many times at the committee, people who qualify for social equity status do not get fair treatment from banks. So they're likely going to have to rely on individual investors. So I ask you, what investor is going to give $1 million to have 35% of a business? What investor is going to do that? You're not going to find people. There are going to be no people. Well, there might be some. And this limitation incentivizes the very predatory contracts you're concerned with. It incentivizes it. Because if you can't recoup your 35% $1 million investment, well, you're certainly going to get creative in how you can put stuff into the bill to exploit the social equity applicants. Whether it's royalties, whether it's some sort of equity swap 3 years down the road, whether it's making them hire your son, daughter, cousin, in-law. There is numerous things, and that's just off the top of my head, and there's many more people here smarter than me that I'm sure could come up with very creative ways to exploit social equity applicants. So let's allow them to have more equity to sell. And I'll give one last example. So social equity applicants, if they have more of their business to sell, it allows them to bring more people in because they can sell, 20%, 20%, 20%, or however they want to do it. So they'll be able to bring more investors, and that open up opportunity in this new business for more people to succeed. Not just them, not just the evil guy who's going to exploit them with some sort of predatory contract because he only gets 35%. So my original proposal was 51%. Then I floated 55%. Now I'm just like, if you can just acknowledge that 65 to 60, it's minimal, but 5% is 5%. And this is only a restriction on social equity applicants. So if they want to only sell 35% of their business, if they want to sell 0% for raising capital, well, okay, they can do that. This is a restriction on them that hurts their ability to succeed. And I would love, I don't know of a single argument on the other side, and I have yet to hear one when I have proposed these amendments numerous times. So I urge members' support of this amendment.
Senator Port.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've had a lot of discussions with stakeholders about the need to keep bad faith actors from taking advantage or preying on social equity applicants. This is already lowered from 100 in last year's bill to 65 in this year's bill. We did that in consultation with stakeholders, and I oppose reducing it any further. I would ask for a no vote.
Further discussion. Senator Frantz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you again, Representative West. I oppose the motion. The considerations in this bill are focused on social equity, but that is not our only focus. Those of us who want to support the current social equity provisions do so for many of the reasons stated in the stakeholder group. But we have other considerations that the Office of Cannabis Management is interested in, like establishing businesses that will have the durability to continue and serve the people. It's for the people of Minnesota that these are drafted, and I would oppose the amendment. I would also add, Representative West, I'm glad to hear about your enthusiasm for social equity. I know our brothers and sisters in the House look forward to your support on other social equity initiatives, on other bills unrelated to the cannabis legislation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Further discussion. I encourage House members to vote no. Representative West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You mentioned, Senator Frantz, you mentioned this increases durability. How does this limitation on social equity applicants increase durability?
Senator Frantz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative West. What I said is considerations like the durability are the things that the stakeholders and the Office of Cannabis Management are looking at. It is not simply in the interest of social equity applicants, but the total picture. In other words, these provisions as established by the chairs and supported by the stakeholders bring us not just the social equity applicant, but hopefully a thriving, successful cannabis industry for many years to come. That's the durability that I see, and that's why I'm a no on the amendment.
Representative West.
Yes, I know I've taken a little bit of time here. None of those were actual arguments. They were just saying people outside this room tell us that it should be this way, so that's what we'll do. And I think we should have a reasoned argument. Reason is the life of law. It's inscribed in the House chamber, maybe not in the Senate chamber. So, I mean, I hope everybody here realizes that reason and logic are not the guiding principles here. It's outside groups. And that was abundantly clear with this amendment, because the reason I talk about social equity applicants is because I know that is important to the other party. I could come up with all sorts of other amendments if I really wanted to be troublesome, but I'm trying to make this bill better, and this certainly does.
Seeing no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. The motion does not prevail. The amendment is not adopted. Representative West, you have the A37 amendment.
So, I need to moisten my throat. So the A37 amendment. Now, I know everyone who had the great honor and privilege to sit in the committees where cannabis was heard, this particular bill, HF4757, you might have heard 1 or 2 or 20 or 30 people criticize the lottery system. Going to a lottery system will diminish the quality of the applicant. It will hurt the launch of the market because we need the strongest people available to do this. Like, we need the strongest businesses, so we should have some sort of actual criteria. So, obviously, I know deleting the lottery was not something that was going to happen. So, I was thinking, how can we implement some sort of real standards into the lottery system? Because right now, it's all minimum standards as to be determined in the future. But one problem with minimum standards, especially if you don't need to have property, is while a grow operation uses a lot of water, we're talking tens of thousands of gallons of water every single day. It uses various things to fertilize and grow their plants, and there's a significant amount of wastewater. There's an outrageous amount of energy in the lights that power these facilities and grow the plants. So when you're looking at those, well, okay, how are you supposed to come up with a wastewater plan or an environmental plan when you don't have a property to show how you're actually going to deal with the problem? How are you going to really show how you're going to have a security plan if you don't have a property to show, well, this is how we're going to keep it secure? So, and even a business plan. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say we expect to spend this much on property, but you can't have a business plan that is truly evaluatable, if that's a word, without property. Can't be done. So when you go to this lottery system, it's all minimum standards. Minimum standard this, minimum standard that, and we don't even know the standards because they're yet to be determined by the department, which I will say, I'm very impressed with the department overall, and I have not a bad word to say about them. They seem like very competent people, and I'm not being sarcastic in any way, even though sarcasm is all over many of my comments. So what this amendment does is it allows people who have secured physical property already, because many people have, and if they have environmental plans and security plans that directly relate to that property, well, they get 2 entries into the lottery. That is a way you can take a lottery system and truly make it, somewhat make it evaluate on competence rather than drawing names out of a hat. When you look at how delicate a new cannabis market is, you're talking about a lot of new businesses, a lot of businesses that don't necessarily have business experience, who don't necessarily have excess capital. Maybe they spend to the hilt. So they're put in this situation to where they just can't perform the business. But they got a license, and they take an opportunity away from somebody else who could run the business. So even with this amendment, that situation can certainly happen. But because we know how many of these businesses go out of business within a year of starting, I mean, any business is a difficult thing to run. A cannabis business is a whole nother level of difficulty. Because, well, 1, it's federally illegal. That complicates matters. And 2, it's primarily a cash business. And cash businesses are way more difficult to run. Everything is more difficult. Imagine getting audited and your entire business is cash. It's not going to go well. So this ensures, well, it doesn't even ensure. This is me trying to work with you and have a reasonable amendment to make the bill better. So by having these 2 entries into the system for people who have secured property and have security and environmental plans, they get 2 entries. Gives them just a slight edge. And this also applies to the social equity lottery, so we can have the best social equity applicants up and ready to go and have a little bit of advantage. But there still is an opportunity for those who do not have property. They still have a chance at their 1 entry. So members, I urge support of this because I don't want to be embarrassed by this disaster of a market that we're going to be running into. And we need to do what we can to ensure that these businesses are going to withstand multiple years rather than collapse within months. And that is something we have seen in other states. And this is something that you've heard. You know, you mentioned that you do things because stakeholders tell you to. We had 30, 40, 50, I don't even know how many people before committee mention how the lottery system is bad because the very reasons I state, because it's naturally unfair and it doesn't incentivize quality applicants. So members, I urge support of this amendment, and I would request a roll call.
There will be a roll call. Members, I urge a no vote on the amendment. The lottery system is designed to put the real estate stage after the lottery stage. This would undermine that, slow things down. Senator Port.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senators, I also encourage a no vote.
Further discussion? Briefly, Representative West.
I think we should have a reasoned discussion on these things.
We are having a reasoned discussion.
I am not one to take a ton of time, as you know.
Your last
But
speech
I
was
would
5
say-
minutes long.
Thank you. I would say that it doesn't slow things down because it still leaves it on both sides. So your argument is null and void, but that is unfortunate when you don't have the votes. All right, that's enough.
Mr. Durfee will take the roll. The chair votes no.
Chair Stephenson, no. Senator Port?
No.
Port, no. Senator Frentz? Senator Mayquade?
No.
Mayquade, no. Senator Zhang?
No.
Zhang, no. Senator Paw? No. Paw, no. Representative Frazier?
No.
Frazier, no. Representative Hanson?
No.
Hanson, no. Representative Kozlowski?
No.
Kozlowski, no. Representative West?
Yes.
West, aye.
There being 0 ayes and 4 nays on behalf of the Senate and 1 aye and 4 nays on behalf of the House, the motion does not prevail. The amendment is not adopted. Representative West, you have the A38 amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will be less than 5 minutes on this one.
Appreciate it.
I try and be reasonable. This amendment allows the early cultivators, so the social equity applicants that get the early cultivation opportunity, it exists in the bill. One thing that the department did bring up in the discussions on early cultivation was, well, what if we're slow getting the licenses out to retailers, and we end up with a huge glut of supply, and it makes the market non-functional because there's a massive glut of supply because it took so long to get a cannabis into retail stores, so we're worried about how early we start cultivating. Well, one way we can get rid of that worry is by allowing these social equity applicants who have early cultivation licenses to sell to our existing stores, because we do have existing stores in the state run by the medical companies. And one caveat I will say, this was not brought to me by the medical companies, but I think that I did mention that I was going to bring it to them. And this would just ensure that if we are slow getting licenses out, which I think we will be for retail sale, this gives them outlet to sell some product before that so that we can keep a stable market on launch.
Senator Portland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I encourage a no vote on this. We have negotiated a very delicate balance between what this market will look like, what portions of it will be open for social equity applicants, how we are setting them up to actually be able to succeed in this market and not have, we don't have what other states have had, which is a huge medical market that overtakes a large portion of the industry, and we would like to keep it that way, and this upsets that delicate balance, and I would ask for a no vote.
Further discussion? I also recommend a no vote. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. The motion does not prevail. The amendment is not adopted. Representative West, you have the A39 amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate you waiting for my eye while I was reading. The A39, now this is, okay, this might take 5 minutes, but it's because it is a very important issue, and it's something that just I am mystified by, like many other things. So when the bill was passed, HF 100 was passed last year, one thing that surprised everyone, even the two-day director of the Office of Cannabis, was that we made many products illegal on enactment of that bill. And it seems weird when it's a bill about legalization that the bill turned out to actually make many products illegal. One of those products was hemp-derived vape products. Now, I've talked with Chair Stephenson much about this, and I've talked with many stakeholders, and it really doesn't, the idea that we'd have a legalization bill that makes things illegal, that are federally legal, is kind of strange, because we made something that was federally illegal legal. At the same time, we made low-potency hemp vapes illegal. Now, one question I got on this is, well, how can a vape be low potency? And that is a good question. So a way you can make a vape low potency is by changing the THC concentration in the vapable substance. And so to make vapes in this amendment low potency, it's 50% concentration. Most vapes are 90% plus. So it is a significantly lower concentration of THC, which makes it lower potency. And many of our hemp businesses, they went from selling numerous products to selling basically gummies and beverages. And that is just killing these new businesses, and it was incredibly unfair. Now, you did take some of my other amendments early on, which I appreciate very much, to give them a few more products to sell, but they're just clawing their way back. So one product that they should be able to sell are low-potency hemp vape products. They're federally legal, and the only thing making them illegal, the only thing it does is hurt Minnesotans, because you can buy these online right now and get them shipped to your house. So the fact that they're illegal is completely irrelevant. All it does is hurt Minnesota residents, Minnesota businesses. So let's adopt this amendment, because people can buy this online. This amendment allows us to have some regulatory certainty when people go and buy it in state, and it helps our businesses, helps our existing hemp businesses, and it is something that's just kind of strange when you have a legalization bill that makes a federally illegal product legal and then a federally legal product illegal. It doesn't make any sense, and I would urge members' support of this vape amendment, because we need to help Minnesota businesses. We don't need to just help out-of-state businesses. And I would urge members' support and request a roll call on this.
Representative West requests a roll call. There will be a roll call. I am going to urge members to vote no on this amendment because while Representative West notes that these vapes are less potent than other vapes, they are still not what I would call a low-dose product, and so I don't believe they belong in the low-dose licensing model. Vapes like this will be permissible to sale with the appropriate license under the cannabis bill that passed last year as modified by this year. Last, I do want to note, since this is the last of Representative West's amendments, and we have said no to them, the committee is saying no to them today, but I did want to note what you briefly noted, Representative West, is that you have many provisions in the underlying bill, which I appreciate, and thank you for bringing in. Thanks for your advocacy and work on it. I do appreciate that. Senator Port.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the same reason, this is not a low-dose product. And once the licenses are up, this will be available in the adult use market, but should not be available easily in gas stations and other places where younger folks can get a hold of them. I encourage a no vote.
Further discussion. Representative West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, tobacco products are available in gas stations, and this would fall under the same restrictions as other hemp products, which are required to be in a locked case or behind a counter. So the idea that children are going to get them, well, maybe children who work for the gas station or whatnot, they're much more dangerous products than this. And as we know, the whole point of legalization is that THC isn't dangerous. So the idea to compare them to that would be ridiculous. We really shouldn't be doing this to our businesses. You're not, and honestly, like, kids can order this online and get it shipped to their house. So there is no protection here. That is fantasy. All it does is hurt Minnesota businesses, and it is a low-dose product. If you want, I would orally amend it to make it a 25% or 30% concentration, if you want it even lower. But I'm assuming that's not a genuine argument, so I won't waste our time with an oral amendment.
Mr. Dockendorf will take the roll. The chair votes no.
Stephenson, no. Chair Port.
No.
Port, no. Senator Makewaid.
No.
Makewaid, no. Senator Zhang. No. Zhang, no. Senator Pa. No. Pa, no. Representative Frazier.
No.
Frazier, no. Representative Hansen.
No.
Hansen, no. Representative Kozlowski.
No.
Kozlowski, no. Representative West.
Yes.
West, aye.
There being 0 ayes and 4 nays on behalf of the Senate and 1 aye and 4 nays on behalf of the House, the motion does not prevail. The amendment is not adopted. Senator Port.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would remove my adoption of the A24-0340 as amendment as amended. But I would, Mr. Chair, like to take a moment and say thank you to the agency, to Director Briner, her staff, who have worked incredibly hard and done what I think is a fantastic job in this first year of the agency. I want to thank them for their work, as well as all the stakeholders, from the tribes to the hemp farmers and everyone who advocated for the changes for medical patients and things like that. This really is a bill that listened to what the community was saying and is engaged to make sure that the launch of the market is successful. So I want to say thank you for that. Also to our staff who's worked incredibly hard on this bill. And with that, Mr. Chair, I would ask to move the A24-0340 amendment as amended.
Senator Port renews her motion that the A24-0340 amendment as amended be adopted. And in terms of discussion, I would echo the sentiments of Senator Port, both to OCM and our incredible staff, both the House and the Senate, and all members of the conference committee for your work on this portion of the report that we're putting together. Further discussion to the motion. Representative West.
It's closing remarks time on this.
We have more motions after this, but this will be the last motion on the cannabis policy portions of the conference report.
Okay.
Representative West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to everybody who is willing to work with me. Representative Hansen, Senator Port, and Representative Stephenson have been, I would say, gracious, because you don't have to treat a minority member with any sort of respect. You can be very rude, and they were no, maybe I was ruder than they were. And I do appreciate it, so I don't want it to be thought that I'm just some sort of miscreant just trying to cause problems.
Maybe we should have a roll call on that question. Representative West.
But I, for one, am not optimistic about this. You got to get the positive stuff now for the negative stuff. I do appreciate the amendments we've taken to help the hemp industry survive this change. But as we go forward, we are setting this market up for failure. And, you know, as somebody who supported the bill, HF100 I supported because I supported the concept strongly. And then I was told, oh, next year we're going to fix all these problems. And I said, oh, terrific. I thought the fixing of the problems would be more leaning towards creating a strong and functioning market and less towards political ideological causes. So I was very disappointed to see the direction of this. I still tried to stay engaged and improve the bill as I could. But when you look at it, like I guess we can call this prediction time, I don't believe we're going to have a very smooth launch. I think at best we're looking at Q4 2025, Q1 2026, and then hopefully those businesses are off and running. But as it's set up now, we put this new market entirely into luck of the draw, chance, because it is certainly possible that these few licenses that are being distributed could be distributed to businesses, social equity or otherwise, that just are simply incapable of operating in this new market. And then we have a bunch of failed businesses and a market that doesn't work, and the black market gets on just fine. You can actually find a news article talking about Michigan has many of these same social equity provisions, and they put out an article of this minority woman who started a business. They borrowed a little over $1 million. They got working and selling. Business didn't work out quite as well as they wanted to. They were looking for a way to get out. And two things they complained about: the amount of paperwork they had to go through as a social equity applicant. They're like, this is supposed to help me, but oh my goodness, this is an outrageous burden just on the paperwork side, which all the regulations you put on these businesses just incentivizes the bigger, richer businesses to succeed because they can afford the people to deal with your regulations. And then this woman went to sell the business, and the business wasn't worth the amount of money she borrowed. So when you think you're helping, you could be putting people in horrible situations. And yes, businesses fail and people get put in horrible situations. But we should be incentivizing the strongest businesses, and we'll still end up with failed businesses, but the strongest ones won't put people in those horrible, horrible situations that ruin their lives because they will never crawl under from that level of debt without declaring bankruptcy, and that has its own problems. So I genuinely appreciate the consideration of my input on this bill. I wish more of it was considered, obviously, and I do not see a thriving market coming from this bill. I think we're all going to be a little embarrassed in a couple years, but I genuinely would love to be wrong. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Seeing no further discussion. Thank you. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of the Port motion to adopt the A24-0340 amendment as amended, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
The motion prevails. The amendment is adopted. Members, we will now move on to portions of the bill that were in the Commerce and Cannabis budget bills that were passed in both chambers. I will note that a letter signed by the Speaker of the House and the Senate Majority Leader authorizing expenditures above the target that this conference initially had, which was zero, is now posted, which allows us to consider these provisions. Senator Port.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move adoption of the provisions contained in the document titled Commerce Supplemental Budget Provisions, Set 1.
Discussion to the Port motion. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion prevails. The provisions described in Commerce Supplemental Budget Provisions Set 1 are adopted. Senator Port.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the A58 amendment. These are technical edits to the Consumer Data Privacy Bill.
Senator Port moves the A58 amendment. Any discussion to the A58 amendment? Representative West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Was this Representative Elkins' provision?
It was Representative West. And this, I do know that these edits are technical in nature and do reflect an agreement between the stakeholders. Anything further, Representative West? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion prevails and the A58 is adopted. Senator Port.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the A59. This adds a sunset to the 340B provision.
Senator Port moves the A59 amendment, which adds a sunset. Any discussion to the amendment? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion prevails. The A59 is adopted. Senator Port.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the A61. This relates to I don't know what that is.
This is the A61 amendment relates to a board that has a very long acronym. That was what was causing Senator Port to pass. The board's acronym is AELSLAGID. That is a real acronym that we should probably change in a future year. But this amendment requires that board to send out email reminders before licenses of the professions that are regulated by it are up for renewal. Discussion to the motion. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion prevails. A61 is adopted. Senator Port.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the A48 amendment. This is a provision relating to the repeal of a franchise fee.
Discussion to the A48 amendment. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion prevails and the A48 is adopted. Senator Port.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the A50 amendment. This is edits to the copper wire provision, and I believe you have an oral amendment.
I do. So first, Senator Port does move the A50 amendment. I have an oral amendment. The oral amendment I am requesting is on line 1.6, strike everything after the number 1, and strike the entirety of line 1.7. And I'm looking to make eye contact with one member of nonpartisan staff who wants to restate it. Should I have Ms. Syverson do it or Mr. Johnson? Mr. Johnson.
Mr. Chair and members, so this is an amendment to the A50 amendment. The full title of the amendment is SCS 4942A50. The amendment is on page 1, line 6 and 7. The amendment would be page 1, line 6, delete, comma, containing. Page 1, line 7, delete everything before the semicolon.
Discussion to the oral amendment. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion prevails and the oral amendment to the A50 is adopted. We are on the underlying A50 amendment. Discussion to the amendment. Representative West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have this is a pretty controversial piece of legislation. The other stuff we just adopted wasn't so much. The one thing is, in our joint rules, it does say that a provision is not germane if it relates to a substantially different subject or is intended to accomplish a substantially different purpose from that of the bill and amendment that were referred to the conference committee. I would argue that copper and cannabis, different subjects, not germane, and even you yourself, as chair of Commerce Committee, said which typically doesn't have in committee, said an amendment to the cannabis bill that had like Minnesota made, that wasn't germane to the cannabis bill because it did a workforce, like a workforce fund instead of the actual fund. And those, so you yourself have demonstrated a certain level of germaneness in your committees, and now you're chair of this committee, and you're saying copper is germane to cannabis? And I'm wondering, do you believe this is germane to the bill?
Representative West, the portions of the Commerce, Finance, and Policy bills that passed both the House and the Senate were referred by leadership to this conference committee. which is why we can consider them here. There's also provisions in the House rules indicating that any measure that's passed by either the House or the Senate can go in any conference committee. So that's how we get here. We also do, as I noted at the beginning of this section of the bill, have a letter from both the Speaker of the House and the Senate Majority Leader pursuant to the appropriate joint rule authorizing the increased spending. This is a finance provision that we're talking about here related to copper. So for those reasons, this is compliant with the joint rules and the rules of the House. Anything further, Representative West?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, just on this as policy now, it's like, okay, if it's germane, I guess it's germane. The majority can be the majority, and I'm certain other people, not me, have done it in the past. But when you look at going after scrappers, it is incredibly frustrating that you go after, law-abiding business owners, try and make them not law-abiding, when what we know is the criminals stealing the copper are the problem. So why don't we pursue the criminals? And I wouldn't, like, when we look at St. Paul, they have a rash of copper thefts right now. So I think something that would make it better is to focus on areas of the state that truly have this problem out of control. I don't think we should be going after we shouldn't be going after the businesses. We should be going after the criminals. I mean, if you just look, I have a news article here about a St. Paul copper wire thief gets probation for latest theft. And when you put people on probation who are stealing copper, well, it's very, very likely that they're going to steal it again. So it's like, this sounds like the city of St. Paul is really having a big issue with this. Maybe they should stay focused on resolving their issues before they put this on the rest of the state and law-abiding business owners. So I think we should maybe have a oral amendment that says this section only applies to cities of the first class in the metropolitan area as defined in Minnesota statutes 473.121. Because with that, we could focus on, at least we don't punish everyone. So I'd like to move that oral amendment.
Representative West, that's much longer than what we usually entertain as an oral amendment, which is a brief and usually technical change. I would ask you to consider withdrawing the oral amendment.
All right, I'll be a good sport. I'll withdraw it.
Thank you. Any further discussion to the 850? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion prevails. 850 is adopted. Senator Port.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the A46 amendment. This again modifies the copper wire provisions, and I do have an oral amendment to this amendment.
And there is an oral amendment, and it is very minor, so you will see. It's not a very long sentence. Senator Port, your oral amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On lines 90.16 and 90.18, delete must and insert may.
Mr. Johnson, could you restate the oral amendment?
Mr. Chair, members, this is an amendment to page R11 of the side-by-side. First instruction would be on R11, Senate language, page 90, line 16, delete must and insert may. Second instruction would be on R11 of the Senate language, page 90, line 18, delete must and insert may.
Discussion to the oral amendment. Representative West.
This is an outrage.
All those in favor of the oral amendment say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion prevails. The oral amendment is adopted. Discussion to the A46 amendment as amended. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion
No.
prevails. The A46 as amended is adopted. Senator Porter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the A62 amendment. This relates to the Secretary of State and the Uniform Commercial Code.
Discussion to the A62 amendment. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion prevails. The A62 amendment is adopted. Senator Port.
Thank you. I move the A47 amendment. This is technical edits to the student loan provision.
Discussion to the A47 amendment. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Motion prevails. The A47 amendment is adopted. Senator Port.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the A24-0348 amendment. This is a technical clarifying amendment from MMB.
Any discussion to the A24-0348 amendment? Representative West.
Senator Port, could you just be slightly more descriptive in your description of it?
Senator Port.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative West, I think we could go to Mr. Johnson for an explanation.
Or Senate Fiscal, I think, was where we were going to go for this one.
Mr. Chair, members, the MMB technical amendment was the A48. So the A24-0340, is that the current amendment we're on?
Yes.
So maybe council will be able to.
Representative West, the A24-0348 restates the appropriations to the Office of Cannabis Management related to the transfer of OMC to OCM in a way that MMB thinks is more appropriate. And I'm seeing a nod from Senate Fiscal. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Mr. Chair and members, I apologize. I was looking at the wrong amendment. That's correct. This is a technical amendment by MMB, making sure that the provisions for medical cannabis appropriations are being transferred correctly to the Office of Cannabis Management. Apologize for my misunderstanding.
Yeah, and I think actually the confusion here is that this ends with the number 48, and that's why I think you said that it's the 48 amendment. The A48 that we adopted previously related to a franchise-free repeal, okay? So hopefully we're all clear. We're going to take a brief recess to the call of the chair. The committee's in recess. calling the conference committee back to order. The Senate switches on the mics really are just too much for this humble House member. It's just too much for me to remember to do that. All right, we have discovered that the amendment that is before the committee right now was just kind of drafted to the wrong file, but the substance of it is what is intended by the maker of the motion. We will have a motion later to instruct nonpartisan staff to make technical edits to the entire conference report to reflect the will of the committee, and so that will address the heading of this amendment, which is just to the wrong file. I am going to ask Mr. Johnson to indicate where this amendment is intended to amend. Mr. Johnson.
Mr. Chair, members, thank you. This amendment is, the page and line numbers that you'll see are correct. The confusion comes because we're amending side-by-sides in conference committee and not amending the underlying bills. So the substance of the page and line is correct, but for the committee's understanding, I'm going to walk through where this appears in the side-by-side, which is what everybody's been working off of. So this is a move to amend the Senate File 4942, first unofficial engrossment in conference committee. The first set of instructions are going to appear on page R1. That is the House language, which is the right side of the side-by-side. So those are the instructions that go from page 1, line 2 of the amendment through page 1, line 16 of the amendment. The next change is the line of the amendment that is page 1, line 17 of the amendment. This change will be on page R5 of the side-by-side. Again, this is a change to the House language, which is the right side of the side-by-side on page R5. The last set of changes from page 1, line 18 through the end of page 1 are changes that would be on page R6. Again, this is all changes to the House language, so the right side of the side-by-side. These are changes on page R6. Again, the substance of the changes are accurate. The page and line number references are accurate to that House language.
Any discussion to the motion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion prevails, and the A24-0348 amendment is adopted. Senator Port.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that nonpartisan staff be instructed to prepare a conference committee report using the A24-0340 amendment as amended, as well as the commerce provisions adopted and amended today, and that they are authorized to make any technical changes necessary to achieve the intent of this committee.
Any discussion to the motion? As I noted a minute ago, one of the technical changes contemplated is the heading of the last amendment. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion prevails. Senator Port. Oh,
That's
that's
all I
it.
have, Mr. Chair.
All right, well, this does conclude the business of this conference committee. A very sincere thank you to Senator Port and members of the conference committee for their work. Members, please keep a close eye on your emails so that we can sign this report as quickly as possible as the hour of session is late. And with that, the committee is adjourned.